Okay, so your outlook on, the next 5 years, for example, inflationary, deflationary, amazing technology, deflationary pressure, bad fiscal and monetary, inflationary pressure. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I didn't really get to finish what I was going to say about the greatest era of prosperity that we've seen in 500 years, 600 years. And the reason why I say that
That's
is
the Renaissance.
since the Renaissance, and I'm calling it Renaissance 2.0.
Uh-huh.
So in the Renaissance, from about the 1500s for a few hundred years, we saw the greatest era of prosperity coming out of the Dark Ages. Sort of the greatest era of prosperity the world had ever seen at that point. And there was a couple conditions that made for that. So number one, we had an explosion of information. So that was the printing press had just been created about 70 years earlier. And now we have the internet and AI, which is an explosion of information. At the same time, they had sort of influenced sort of this global capital of trade. And so trade started flourishing. And really what enabled that trade to flourish was they had a new coin called the florin, which is a gold coin. It was the longest lasting coin in history that wasn't debased, 400 years of sound money policy. So you take this explosion of information, at a time when we have a globally recognized currency that is not debased, sound money,
Right.
and you see massive prosperity. And so now today we have the information age with the internet, but also AI, which is going to create massive prosperity. And again, technology should give us that deflation or give us our standard of living up. As I said, the monetary debasement is stealing that from us, but now we have Bitcoin.
Yep.
And so now we have sort of the same components. We have the internet and AI, which is like the printing press. And now just like the florin sound money, we have Bitcoin. And I believe for those that adopt it early enough, we'll be able to reap the full benefits of the technology and live this deflationary life.
Right. And that's interesting because what you're saying is that the bad fiscal and monetary policy we will be insulated from that by using the non-debasable, I guess, Bitcoin, right? And we'll have all the benefits of the technology that will just come to everybody, but our currency won't be debased because we'll beat inflation.
Right? That's right. So if you look at the price of almost anything in the last 5 years or 10 years, it's come down in Bitcoin terms.
Yep.
So we were talking earlier about you have a chart that you show frequently, maybe put up on the screen while we're talking, but the price of homes,
right.
And you have them priced in Bitcoin.
Yeah. And a bunch of other things.
Yeah. And
they've gotten cheaper, like real estate is cheaper in Bitcoin.
Gasoline and oil and eggs and lumber and you name it, they've all gotten cheaper in Bitcoin terms while they're getting more expensive in dollar terms. And so we have the ability to change our own unit of account.
Mm-hmm.
And so we can see things getting cheaper in Bitcoin terms and get the benefit of the technology at the same time. Now, you said for everybody. Unfortunately, it's not for everybody.
Well, everybody has access to the technology and everybody has access to Bitcoin, even in the smallest amount.
Well, everybody has access to both of those if they are able to have an open mind and ask the right questions. And this goes back to sort of the question that you asked earlier. What happens to all those people that get displaced? And you asked, is it the same generation that picks it up? So some people would probably easily argue no, right? Like you're too old, an old dog can't learn new tricks. Right. What I would say is, at the state park, they have a sign that says, like, don't feed the animals
because they become dependent. Imagine that. Welfare is the same thing.
Yeah, but humans aren't animals.
Yeah, right.
Right? I think if we're hungry enough, we'll go work. We'll go dig a hole. We'll go do something. People are calling for, we need UBI. We need UBI because
universal basic
income because it's going to displace so many jobs. We have to take care of those people. Yeah. But it's the safety net that causes them not to go get retrained.
Right.
And so I think, people will go find that job if they are hungry enough. And I know that sounds maybe a little bit inhumane, but it's like we have to learn to provide value. We have to learn to up-level our skills. And, we can talk about the bottom and the social safety net that needs to be put in there. But I think I'm looking at the era of prosperity. And for those that are listening to your show and that listen to my show, that are forward thinking, that are looking to increase their skills and provide more value to the world, for us, it's the greatest era of prosperity that we've ever seen because we can change our unit of account.
Yeah.
We can adopt these tools right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Look, I like Bitcoin well enough for sure. And you know that, and I have some. And I am just concerned because like you mentioned the florin and everybody agreed that was the currency. Not everybody agrees that Bitcoin is the currency or the store of value or whatever you want it to be, right? It's certainly not the currency, right? Because it's hard to spend. It can't process, the processing speed's not big enough and so forth on layer one. So Do you want to address that?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's obviously not true. So, I mean,
Obviously not true.
yeah, I mean, you can spend Bitcoin faster and cheaper than anything else. You said on layer one.
Well, I'm talking about, on layer
On layer one. So what happens
processing
is
speed is not high enough.
on layer one. But what happens is technology scales in layers. That's just how it works, right? So we have the base internet protocol, TCP/IP, but we want other features like email. That's an SMTP protocol.
Right.
It sits on the next layer.
Yep.
And we need HTTPS security, so it sits on the next layer. So to say that it doesn't work on layer one is sort of like self-defeating.
All right.
Because
Lightning. So you use Lightning on top of Bitcoin.
Well, there's multiple layer 2s and layer 3s at this point. And the reason why is, let's look at the monetary system. So we had gold. Gold was final settlement. I have the gold. I give you the gold. You have the gold. But gold.
Then we had receipts, and that was fiat.
Well, gold's too slow, so it goes in the bank, and they give me a paper gold certificate, an IOU, a claim. Now, we can trade the paper way faster, but it's not final settlement because I have to go to the bank and actually get the gold.
Right.
So that'd be layer 2. Then the banks gave us checks. That's layer 3. And then they gave us credit cards. That's layer 4. Then we have Venmo. That's layer 5. But we don't just have Venmo. We have Venmo. We have PayPal. We have
Square.
Now, each one of those, I could do a check still. Or I could do, but why Venmo, or why not PayPal, or why
WeChat?
Square?
That's another one.
Each one has a different set of trade-offs.
Right.
So what happens is on Bitcoin, if I want to send a final settlement, censorship resistant, immutable for all transactions for all time in history, then I'll wait 10 minutes and I'll pay the $1 or $2 for the transaction. If I want
moving the gold from one vault to the other.
That's like moving gold from one vault to another. If I want to pay for a cup of coffee, that doesn't need to be censorship resistant, immutable for all of humanity. So I'll send that over layer 2 or layer 3 in an instant for free.
Okay.
And so it allows me as the user to choose the trade-offs at the level.
What I'm getting at there is not to debate, how much more efficient we can make Bitcoin. But, it's really a question of, what does Bitcoin need to be to succeed? In other words, does it need to be just a store of value like gold, or does it need to be a currency that's usable easily every day? What you just said is, it can be both, right? But what do you really think at the core of it needs to be to
Well, I guess it would depend on what your definition of success is.
Fair.
The fact that it is the best performing asset of all time,
but only for 15 years. Like, that's a pretty short history.
So yeah, I got the benefit of speaking at Peter Schiff.
A little more than 15 years.
I had the benefit of
Peter Schiff.
I spoke at his mastermind, which is Sovereign Schiff now, or Schiff Sovereign, I should say. And we're in Mexico City. And I don't know why they asked me to come speak at the mastermind, and Schiff was there, obviously. And we got a debate outside for a long time. And the one thing that the sticking point for him is it's only been around for 15 years.
Yeah.
Okay. You got it. Well, candles were light for 5,000 years too.
Yeah.
Right. So, sure. It's only been around for 15 years. Sure.
Okay. But I mean,
but back to, what is your definition of success? So it's already protected my wealth better than any other asset in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And then you ask, does it have to become a currency? I mean, it doesn't have to be. What happens is we want to use the right tool for the job. So if I want to buy a cup of coffee, Gresham's law states that good money drives out bad. Up to 1965, quarters and dimes were made of pure silver.
Right.
You won't find those in circulation anymore.
Yeah.
If you just happen to get one at the store, you wouldn't spend it.
Yeah, that's good money.
It's good money, and you spend the bad. So we're always going to want to spend the fiat and keep the Bitcoin.
Right.
Unless, so, you obviously know plenty of gold people. Gold companies, they sell bags of junk silver.
Yep.
Which are,
I've owned many of those.
Which are bags of quarters and dimes.
Yep.
And do you know why people buy bags of old?
Because they're small, divisible.
But why do they need small, divisible?
They want them to be usable in a major crisis,
right.
Currency collapse.
Got it. So they're not going to use them unless it's the only form of payment they could use. Right. So what that tells us is that I'm only going to use the good money if it's the only form of money I could use. So, for example, the lady that cuts my hair, she's from Afghanistan. And when Biden had been pulled out of Afghanistan in 2022, the Taliban took over. It was a disaster. She's like, Mark, I really wish I could send some money back home to help these women in Afghanistan. I feel so bad for them. But the Taliban's taken over the bank. I can't send them money.
With Bitcoin, you can do it.
But Bitcoin, you can do it. If you're in North Korea with Bitcoin, you can do it, right? And so that's something only Bitcoin can do.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we need that more, but here's where, back to the age of prosperity.
But to be fair, any cryptocurrency can do that.
It
won't be censorship resistant, though. That's a fair point. Yeah, Bitcoin really is.
Yeah. And that's exactly it.